What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar thus far, especially as we approach tomorrow, and then what's also going to happen to the charts, in my opinion, looking at the current trends. So I'm going to break down all the tickers, what you should be watching for on the patterns, and some very important levels to be watching for. But before I do anything like this, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very, very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening with the market and SPY. Looking at SPY, we have a nice inverse head and shoulders-like structure, and also SPY has this imbalance to fill all the way up at 499. And as you can see, this thing's been kind of uptrending so far. But the question is, what's going to impact this going into tomorrow, and what should we be watching for? So later on today, we do have Barr giving a speech from the Fed. That's going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You might start a little bit earlier. Sometimes that does happen. So at the very end of the day, we'll see what that causes. Besides that, going into Thursday, we have some exports and imports data coming out, then some manufacturing numbers for manufacturing production, month over month and year over year, not to mention the industrial production as well and other sectors like that. So everything is very, very minor. I'm not really seeing anything like that insane, that crazy, at least for Thursday. And besides that, we'll just have to see how this ends up continuing. Now, looking at the markets, I just want to call out that right now, SPY is technically in an uptrend. It's not the strongest of uptrends we've seen, but it is still technically holding up so far. And we'll just have to see how it respects these levels. So the reason why it's in a small uptrend is because we made this low right over here after the CPI came out. And then since then, we've been kind of like establishing a higher low, and now we're trying to push up higher. But here's the issue with SPY. And I wanted to actually clarify this with everyone. I don't know yet if SPY is about to start a downtrend or if SPY is about to do something very, very different. Now, one could argue that if SPY were to be in a downtrend, this thing could attempt to fill this imbalance. It could try to fill this gap and push higher. But even if it does do that, is it going to break this high? Or are we about to establish a lower high at 500 before we get another big rejection? And honestly, guys, I can't give you an answer yet. This is going to be very big. A very big test is coming over the next few days. SPY may attempt to go higher, but we're going to have to wait and see if this thing establishes a lower high and gets another big rejection, or if it's about to fill this gap and start to just continue to break to new all-time highs. There's no way I could really give you an answer yet. This is going to be very big, and I just want to say this is something very important to watch for, right? Same thing on the QQQ. Is the market about to start downtrending? And to determine that, we have to see if we could break the high or not. And if we fail to do so, we have to watch our supports. So what am I going to break down for like the much shorter term? What's more important for short term analysis? The answer is right now, SPY is trying to hold above 496. If we lose this, you have 494. We've been holding above that all day, which is a good sign for the bulls. But one thing you'll notice is that the market's been ping-ponging in a way. We kind of like pumped in the morning, came back down, pumped and dumped over and over and again for the last couple of hours. So we're still technically range trading. We also have this resistance at 497, which is kind of minor. 498 is stronger resistance. If we get above 498, we're going to be pushing up to at least 499, which is where this imbalance happens to be. And if we break this, 501 is easily coming, in my opinion. So what do I think this is going to do? Right now, this looks bullish because when you look at SPY, at least on the 30 minutes time frame, there's a nice accumulation structure right over here, kind of resembling like a cup and handle. We also have a nice push towards our imbalance and returning on the 4-hour time frame, so long as we hold our support. So as long as we're above 494, SPY has potential to push higher. I really think it can. I think there's a very good chance it could get very, very close to 500. So we'll see if we could push even higher. But if we fail to do so, if we get a rejection somewhere like up here and we come back down, watch 494. I'll have to see if that holds. What do I think SPY is going to do? In my opinion, I think it's going to push higher. I think it's going to fill this imbalance. And I think that eventually it's going to try to get closer to 500. That's what the trend is suggesting. It's a little bit sideways and choppy right now. But there is a chance it could try to push a little bit higher. So I'll be watching for that, especially going into tomorrow and Friday. On the QQQ, it's the same thing essentially. This thing held 429 very, very nicely and tested resistance at 432. Now we have this nice cup and handle like structure, and it's continuing to be holding up very, very nicely. So I'll be watching this because if you look at this, it's been shopping back and forth for the entire day, right? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So watch 432 as resistance. If we do break above this, especially by the next 2 days, this gap all the way up to 435 could get filled pretty quickly. And I think there's a very good chance it's going to fill that gap. I think that's going to end up happening, especially as we have this imbalance up here. So I do favor this a little bit more. And it's also because of the market structure. So the market structure just shows us that this had this low that was made here, establishing a higher low, excuse me, and we're trying to break out. So this is favoring the bulls. In turn bearish, you want to see this thing basically lose 429. If we lose that, then 427 is coming, hold by 425. But in my opinion, I favor another push to the upside. I think it's going to try to break this high. I think there's a very good chance this imbalance gets filled and it's going to try to push higher. That is looking a lot more probable, not just because of the QQQ, but look at the thing that's dictating this. And by the way, I will talk about Tesla in just a minute. So let's first talk about Nvda. Nvda, it retested this zone right here, the zone of resistance. So we had this 740 area, then we had 745 right as resistance levels. Notice how we rejected off 742 and came back down. But look at what the pattern looks like. This low key looks like a nice cup and handle if you just look at it carefully. But we have this nice cup. The handle's attempting to form. It might come back down, trade sideways a little bit, and slowly push. So if it's forming a cup and handle, this could lead to a bullish outcome for Nvda. So we have a nice bullish formation. In order for this to pan out, we have to see this thing get a break. So I'm thinking it could attempt to hold 730. If we close above it, that's a good sign. And going into tomorrow, we could be looking for a pushback up to 740. And if we get that break, if it breaks above this, this could help the QQQ start pushing. That could be another signal. Now, in order for us to turn bearish, you could interpret this as a flag that's forming. You need to see Nvidia lose 720 and eventually these lower levels, and then we're going to be looking for a bigger drop after that. But I don't really favor that. I think that there's a good chance this is trying to form a cup and handle. If you look at what happened today, I called out since yesterday the inverse head and shoulders for the bounce, and that played out so far. We actually made our way back up to 740. Now we got this rejection, but we didn't come all the way back down to this lower support down here. Instead, we just got this nice formation, so it's still favoring bulls somewhat more. How about for Tesla? Is Tesla looking bullish? Is it looking bearish? Here's my answer. Tesla is looking bullish because we have this gap to fill around 188, and we're trying to, we saw a nice accumulation structure. This is resembling a nice accumulation. That's like the most important thing, as Tesla was basing at 182, and we managed to hold above 184 for almost the entire day. There were some instances where we came below it, but for the most part, we held above 184. Because it held that, it's now approaching the resistance at 187.5. It's very slow, though. It's not like running that hard, but it's showing some life. With that being said, I think Tesla could try to fill this gap up here into the 188s. And if we break that, it could easily push up towards the 190 area. So there's a very good chance it's going to try to accumulate. This is like an accumulation structure, and it's going to try to push out to this next resistance zone. Very, very good chance Tesla will end up doing that at the very least. So I'll have to wait and see. To turn bearish on Tesla, you have to watch 184. If we lose that, there's going to be a risk of it coming down to 182 and eventually 180, and then the 170s if that breaks. But for now, it's not really favoring that. It is favoring bulls for the time being. So we'll see how it pushes going into close. It's holding up very, very nicely. Last but not least, the one and only Aapl stock. Aapl, not looking that good. So it's been downtrending hard. There's a lot of bearish momentum that's still making up its order flow. But then what you'll notice is that it's trying to base at 182.5, the exact level we had. If we try to push, you have to try to get above 183.5 and then 184. If we lose 182.5, we'll be coming down to, in my opinion, getting very close to 181 and 180. I think 180 would come if we ended up losing this and we close below it. So far, Apple's in a good place where it could attempt to reverse. We have this imbalance up here, so I could be looking for 184 to be retested. But first, I have to see if it bases and holds 182.5. It's still just barely in this range. So in my opinion, it might base here, might try to reverse, but just to be safe, we'll have to see if Apple could hold this support. If it loses it, then hey guys, there's going to be a bigger risk of downside, and it is what it is. But I'm starting to think that there is a chance it might try to reverse. We just have to wait to see how it closes. So watch this very carefully on Apple stock. So that being said, guys, as far as the market goes, I think that the market has been very sideways a lot of the time. Same thing with SPY kind of being range bound. But some tickers are showing life. Tesla is showing life, so is SPY. The market is rebounding a bit as we predicted yesterday, and there's a good chance it could continue to do so, but we have to try to maintain our levels and continue to push. With that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and watch and see if the market could hold these levels and even push up. And as far as SPY goes, like I said before, the bigger picture for SPY, as a reminder, is are we about to start a downtrend or are we about to uptrend? That is something we'll have to wait and see. What do I mean by that? Let me just repeat myself one more time. SPY had that high at 503. Are we about to break 503 over the next week? Or does SPY establish a lower high at like 501 or something like that and then reject? Keep that in the back of your mind for the next few days. I just wanted to call that out. That's something very big for the markets because that will determine if SPY is about to see a big downtrend or if this thing's about to bounce. So we'll have to see where this thing tops at, if it breaks the high or not, and be very, very patient for the next couple of days. That's another thing I just wanted to call out. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys very soon in a couple of hours. Thank you, and peace out.